What's up, guys? So it's another day, actually it's like another night, and it's fucking cold. I want to say that it's like 21 outside or something like that. It may be like 19 at this point. So what are we going to do today? Basically, I haven't done much in the shop. We've just been kind of doing house stuff. Messed around with the little TIG welder some. I don't know if I'm going to put this video out first or the last one that I recorded. But what we are going to do is take out the gauge cluster on my car. The speedometer's been acting weird, and I mean, if you didn't know, sorry if it's dark in here, by the way. I mean, it's just dark. Kind of have to, anyways, the solder joints come loose in the meter, or in the whatever gauge cluster, and you can just like usually resolder them, and you'll end up all right. So that's what I'm going to try doing. I kind of don't think it's that. I kind of wonder if the actual cluster is just fucked up in its own. But if it does, hey, I mean, it's something you can check. But I mean, I'm not going to say that it's going to fix every one of your cars, because my speedometer will just like read and then not read, and then reads like 43 pretty much all the time, most of the time. But I won't be able to test it tonight, but I'm pretty sure it'll fix it. I mean, we'll see it once we get in there if we see anything loose. I mean, and even if we don't see anything loose, I'm just going to touch them up. So, yeah, guys, I guess we'll get to doing that. I don't know if you already know how to take a cluster out, but I'll try to brief over it if I can. So, okay, guys, I'm going to try to be like your flash for this, because this is not attached. Anyways, guys, there's your gauge cluster. There's going to be 2 screws up in those holes right there, as well as on the S14. I don't know on the S13. I can't really remember, but it's going to be about the same deal. I think, and as you can see, all this nasty shit where my steering column is. I have my fan controller right there, so you won't have that. But take out the lower bolts or screws from these holes right here, and that will let you into the, or let you split the 2 halves. There's the other half. So, and then you should be able to just take this piece, well, anyways, you can barely see it, and remove it. So that'll get us to where we need to be. Okay, guys, let me get my flashlight. Okay, if you're having hell getting that piece out, don't forget to unplug that switch right there. If you're having hell getting that out, it's easiest to just take it, pull it back. Let me see if I can hold all this. Take it, pull it back, and then you're not going to really be able to get it out in between the column and the dash right here. You're going to have to probably pull it out sideways. So I like to take mine, go like that. If you have your fan controller right here, you know it's just easiest just tuck it to the side. So yeah, let's, and then I guess I can go ahead and do the next part. The screws all around the cluster, and then all the connectors. Some of them are tricky, but they should be pretty self-explanatory, and then I'll show you what we do after that. Okay, guys, so just like that, it's out. Same thing, pull it out, pull it like to the side, and then come out with it. And then just get all of your connectors off, and we'll get to it. Okay, guys, so the first thing you're going to do whenever you have your cluster out, this is my cluster, it's all dirty. It doesn't hurt to clean everything up, for sure. Just be careful whenever you're getting out. I should have mentioned it whenever I was taking it out. Be careful not to scratch your lens up. I think you can get these brand new, but I think they're pretty expensive, but I'm not sure if you can even still get them. I know that for the newer cars, like if I broke one at work, they're like $400, and a cluster is like $700, so really overpriced, because they know that that's one thing you're probably going to end up fucking up. But anyways, what we're going to want to do is take the clear lens off. You can see these clips around it. Let me see if I can show you. See these, oh god dang it. See these clips where the clear goes through, the acrylic lens? You're going to want to push those through. Now be careful not to snap them off. If you do, it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's plenty. You just try not to break them all off. The worst that's probably going to happen is, I mean, if it doesn't stay clipped in, is you may have some dust intrusion. But these old cars kind of have that anyways, through the holes where you have like your odometer reset and your brightness. So, well, actually, this one's for the clock. I forget, it's not a new car. So we'll do that, and then we're going to end up taking some other screws off. But you'll be able to see a lot more after we get those screws off, and you'll see. Anyways, just take off the clear lens, and then we'll see what's up. So, okay, you don't really have to take off the clear lens if you don't want to. If you don't want to risk it, and if yours is pretty clean, I mean, then I wouldn't really worry about it. You can just take the whole thing off with the black. I thought it was part of the screwed on there. It's been a while since I've done this, but now you can see much better into the cluster, as you can tell. And now our goal basically is to remove the speedometer unit as one unit, or one thing. So I think we can if we just take out these back screws, but let me just make sure. So let's see. Oh yeah. Helps to grab the right screwdriver. There we go, guys. So it's just the 3 screws on the back that are pretty obviously. This also goes for your tachometer. I mean, I'm saying gauge cluster, but I mean, my problem is the speedometer. I wouldn't really mess with your fuel gauge or your coolant temp gauge, but you take out these 4 screws, or these 3 for the tach, and then you should be able to get the whole unit out. And all we're going to be doing is inspecting the solder joints on the back of this. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, guys, so it may not be super obvious to you, but basically, let me show you what we're looking for. Sometimes you'll see a little black smoke, or like a black spot, something let the smoke out, something messed up. But usually, if I can set this down and you can still see it in the light, that'd be nice. These solder joints, like this one right here, these guys, I know it's kind of blurry because the GoPro doesn't have. Okay, guys, so I switched over to my iPhone so I can get kind of like a macro shot of this, and it really does look better on this phone than it does on my GoPro. That's kind of fucked up. But basically, you see these joints right here. You're just trying to make sure that none of these pins, because each one of these has a pin, as you can see how they stick up. If any of those is like, say that it's loose, it's like basically wiggly, you don't want that. We're gonna reflow the solder. So all you're really gonna need is a soldering iron, a flathead, and a Phillips screwdriver basically for this job. Don't go rolling your odometers back. I don't recommend doing that because you have access to that right here. Don't go doing that crap. Now, in my case, I really don't think this is going to fix my problem. I think the problem's in here, although even though I don't visibly see any broken solder joints, I'm going to go ahead and reflow the main ones around the motor over here. And I don't really mess with any of these small ones unless I see a problem, but I'll mess with all these big ones. I see maybe a bit of a problem right here where it's kind of broken, I guess you could say, but I'm not going to really worry about that because I can't do much about it if it is. And I partly think that a bit of my problem were these screws right here. I think that a couple of them were a little loose, and I mean that's the main thing to check. Check these, check those, anything. Just make sure there's nothing like out of the ordinary here, because if there is, I mean it's not worth letting it mess with you. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna reflow some solder. I'll show you guys how to do that. This will work on like the window switches. Say that your driver's window isn't working, you put a motor in it, it still doesn't work. I can show you how to fix your window amp as well. I'll probably end up making a video on that because I did have to do it on my car whenever I first bought it. So anyways, I'm gonna go and reflow all these guys. I would recommend doing it, reflowing them, even if you don't see anything wrong with it. So that's what I would say. And I'm probably just gonna record anything like this with my phone because it's just better. It's got better macro. Okay, guys, so it may be a little hard to hear me. Anyways, so if you're just wanting to reflow some of your joints, I use a gas soldering iron. I really like a gas soldering iron. It just gets hot fast. And I know I was saying, Jennifer pointed out micro lens, whatever, you know what I mean? So if you're just wanting to reflow, you should be able to just get your soldering iron nice and hot. You know, maybe flow a tiny bit of solder on it. If you're using lead solder, don't go eating it. I mean, that's just, I don't know why people have such a hard time understanding you don't eat lead. I like to put a little on, go up next to your solder joint, and you'll see it, literally, you'll see it reflow. Like, and if you want to feed a little solder into it, you can. I mean, it definitely ain't going to hurt. Sorry, you hear the GoPro. I like to do that for most of the big joints, as well as the motor joints. I mean, it definitely ain't going to hurt. So, this thing is 22 years old. So, and if you have an S13, it's probably a lot older. Bam. Just be careful, you know. Don't burn your house down. Don't burn yourselves. So I'm just going to go through and this really works on like any 90s car. Maybe even a couple early 2000s car, but I don't believe a lot of newer cars really have a problem with this. So at least the ones we see at Nissan's usually just like LCDs go out, and then that's not our deal anyways. It's whoever manufactures the actual cluster for us, which there's a few different brands, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend breathing this smoke that's coming off of these guys. That was not me. That was a freaking desk. But I mean, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory what I'm doing. Whoopsie. If you do any like sketch like that, just redo it. Usually if it's balling up real bad, it's usually a sign of it's like not flowing in right, but you can usually tell. You're smart. But hell, after you do a few of these, you'll be able to blow through this. Like it ain't no big deal. But yeah, I do kind of think that that my problem lied in those screws maybe, or in the actual motor itself. Which sucks because finding gauge clusters for these cars is like super duper hard. And see, there's a little poop on that one. That'll be fine. It's probably just a flux from the solder I'm using. This is lead-free solder. It's made by Benzomatic. It's lead-free rosin core, and I have to admit, I'm really not a big fan of lead-free solders. I think that the lead stuff just, it flows great, you know? I mean, that's what they were using back in the day, and I still think it works phenomenally. But it's really hard to find lead solder nowadays because everybody goes munching it down and getting all kinds of stupid, you know, they're all becoming idiots because they ate a bunch of lead, so. Those are jokes, but, you know, everybody's just always making such a big deal about lead, and it's like, don't eat the shit. When you use it, just, you know, wash your hands. Come on, don't be stupid. Think about what a parent would tell you. Don't go licking your fingers after you play with a bunch of lead. But, I mean, that has pretty much killed a lot of the way that soldering's done. I mean, at least we use all these weird lead-free solders now, which, hell, you know, I'm not gonna say go eat this crap either, like, but you know, I feel like I'm just rambling at this point that you pretty much know what you're doing. I'm just trying to remove a little bit of the solder off of this. And I have like a sponge here. So this iPhone 10 camera really is, I haven't really messed with it, but it looks all right. We'll see what happens whenever I throw it in Vegas. Throw it in Vegas Pro and get it edited and see what it looks like then. God, this one's coming out ugly. I'm gonna give up on that before I just mess it up even more. So everything looks good. If you really feel like flowing these, you can, just cause these little guys, but if you accidentally short hems out with hems and you have problems, you know, that's your deal. My GoPro's mad because I'm not using it, I guess. But I mean, hell, the macro on the GoPro, I've got the Hero 5 and it's just like poop. Look at this nice install of resistor number 10 over here. That's JDM. I mean, could that be the problem? Possibly. Do I really want to go fucking with that? I don't know if I'm going to do more harm or good to this. I think I'm just going to flow a little solder on that backside and see what happens. There we go. That's all I'm going to do right there. If that don't fix it, then we'll worry about it. But I mean, mine, like I said, sometimes my shit would just read 43 like all the time. Anyways, that seems like most of them, guys. You can go do this to your tack. I mean, it's the same process. Just make sure nothing's broken. Make sure the bolts are tight for sure, the screws and stuff. And if you're just going to perform any maintenance on your meter, I mean, now's the time to do it. So, I think we're done with the soldering portion of this video. I think you successfully know how to solder, and yeah, I mean, I feel confident in you. Also, guys, it wouldn't be a really bad idea to go ahead and do all these solder joints too. If you see a little poop next to them, like that little brown spot, that's okay. I mean, that's nothing bad. That's usually just like the flux that they run on them, basically, because like a lot of their solders was like rosin core and stuff, or they'll add flux to get the solder to flow good. As well as if you're going to change any of your bulbs, right now is the time to do it. Any maintenance that needs to be done on this thing, double check every single screw. I mean, and you'd be surprised, and just make sure everything's contacting in your connectors. Just, it damn sure won't hurt. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised with this iPhone 10 camera. So yeah, that's what I would do, guys. Go ahead and put it back together. And if you do this, I mean, let me know how it works. And I think that pretty much sums up the video. I mean, putting this back together is just like the reverse of removal. I mean, you took it apart. I'm sure you can put it back together. Putting it back together is usually the easier than getting it apart. So anyways, guys, thanks for everything. Happy New Year, and I'll see you later.